The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted. Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
So we've got this debate from last night to cover, and boy, was it a bad one for Donald. He fell for every line of bait, every trap that Kamala set. He couldn't respond to any of her attacks, rambled like a madman, and she went off the rails multiple times while also elegantly laying out her policy proposals. So we've got plenty of these clips queued up. Let's take a look at the absolute destruction one by one.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
This was one of the best moments, hands down, and you can tell that it really got to Trump from his reaction. He just can't cope. His cult cannot cope with the fact that Joe Biden beat him, and they've been lying for years in order to ease that pain, and world leaders are laughing at him. Be assured, the way that he is susceptible to flattery is a laughing matter. They're laughing at America for normalizing his insane behavior. And we cannot have a leader that represents America in that way for himself. Who cannot accept facts as facts, who believes in alternative truth, and who is willing to degrade America for the well-being of himself. Trump had no response for this.
I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
This was the perfect response to Trump trying to call the Democrats the frauds. He said that the crime numbers weren't down, that they're fraudulent, that jobs aren't actually being created, they're fraudulent, both of which are lies. And then Kamala just destroyed him with this one response, because we're looking at someone who's actually done fraud, who's actually frauded an election through interfering in it, who actually frauded his business records. But we're supposed to listen to him try and tell us about how other people are the real frauds, but his fraud is all fake. Remember that as well. Like, yeah, okay, nobody serious is taking this serious. And it's because he's literally doing things that he supposedly thinks are so bad. Fraud is terrible, but he does fraud. But when he does fraud, it's not really happening or something like that. And you have to realize what it means when somebody's talking like that. I mean, it doesn't hit as hard to say the other side tried to steal an election when you actually tried to steal the election. I mean, it's the Spider-Man meme, and Trump is standing there pointing at himself.
Now, in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
This might single-handedly be the issue that she was the strongest on, that she just crushed him the hardest on in the debate, while Trump floundered. He refused to even say that he would veto a national abortion ban. You have to realize what that means. And she did a great job pinning the negative outcomes of these Trump abortion bans onto him, from sexual assault victims, children, miscarriages. And Trump, again, couldn't respond in any coherent manner. He couldn't even do the bare minimum and calm down people's worries that he would sign a national abortion ban by saying, no, there's no way I would do this. He just skirted around the question. It was at this moment that I realized Kamala was going to kill this entire debate. There wasn't going to be a moment that debate was in question. And boy, was I right for thinking that. At literally no point was it close. And that included Trump interrupting multiple times and getting an extra 1 or 2 minutes to where he controlled the majority of the speaking time, while she controlled the room in the debate.
And he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
This ended up being an amazing prediction from Kamala. Trump resorted to immigration in 6 different answers, all of which the questions had nothing to do with immigration. And yet, when he was asked directly about how he would do his mass deportation for immigration, he couldn't even expand on how he would do it. And she was able to also nail him as this bumbling old man here, and it baited him, instead of talking about immigration more, talking about his crowd sizes, showing how he really only cares about projecting his own successes. But she's also right. He never expands on policy. She showed him, and it was shown in this debate when he didn't one time expand on policy. He never explains how he's going to help you. He just rambles incoherent nonsense and says things like, well, the American Revolution was won by controlling the airports in 1776, mind you.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people.
This was another moment that had me absolutely screaming. We all knew that Trump's main plan would be to try and tie her to Biden and all the things that he felt like she would be weak on because of it. And she shut that down on the first attempt so hard that he refused to try again. I mean, you couldn't answer it better than this. It's what most people want. Most voters didn't want Trump or Biden. Most people thought that both were mentally unfit for office, while Kamala Harris represents a fresh breath. That's why she's been surging in the polls, a new generation, hope and possibility for the future, while Trump represents going back to where we were. We saw what he did, and most people didn't like it. That's why he lost in 2020. And after she buried him with this, Trump refused to even try to go back there a single time for the rest of the debate.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David.
This part was also great because Trump tries to pretend that he's for world peace, yet it's Biden-Harris who got all Americans out of active war zones, while Trump got Americans killed abroad throughout his entire presidency. Trump negotiated with terrorists, including releasing terrorists, and Trump lost more troops in Afghanistan than Biden did. The way that she was able to turn all of his best attacks, what were seen as his best attack lines before the debate, it was wildly impressive. I mean, I went into this having very high hopes for Kamala and what she could do being a prosecutor, and she crushed and outdid every single one of those.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
This part was the end of anyone being able to say that Trump looked good in this debate, admitting that he doesn't even have plans as a candidate, nay, a nominee for president only a few months before he would take office. He has no plans. He just has concepts. Mix that in with, throughout the debate, him failing to expand on any of the policy plans, I guess they're just concepts, that he said that he wanted to do. He couldn't even explain how mass deportation would work. He couldn't explain tariffs. He just said, well, economists love them, even though economists agree that they raise prices. He didn't even expand on his favorite policy of all, the corporate tax cuts. He refused to say that he would veto a national abortion ban, and Kamala was able to pin all of this on him. The contrast was great, and it was shown throughout the debate of a babbling little baby and a professional-looking prosecutor. I mean, Trump went into his own spin room after the debate. That's how you know he lost. He felt like he had to do damage control already. Quickly started saying it was rigged, and the MAGA cope is already pouring in, and it's just great to see after this slaughter. I highly doubt he agrees to do another debate. So now we have to wait for the Tim Walz and JD Vance debate that I'm sure will be equally a spectacle. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that could interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video. We even have memberships available as low as $3 if you want to support, because the only way we become a society is together. Peace.